So today, let's understand what automation is all about. Automation lets you to fine tune the parameters of the plugins, the fader or the pan so that it improves your programming, mixing and mastering. Automation should not be confused with clip gain feature. As the name says, clip gain is applicable only for volume, whereas automation could be done on any parameter. It could be the ADSR parameters of your synthesizer or the cutoff of your filter, the faders and your pan, etc. etc. So let's first look into what is the clip gain feature and how different it is from automation. So I have two clips loaded onto my project, and if I want to alter the volume levels of the clips, I would go to the inspector window. On press of I open the inspector window, and on the regions here, as I open the disclosure triangle, I am allowed to dial in the new volume levels for each and every selected clip. I select this particular clip and I can increase or decrease the decibels. I can also double click and simply type 12 decibels so that you find the second clip is very louder, and I can also double click and say like minus 12 dB, and I can alter the levels of each and every clip separately. If I do it with the fader, so this decrement would affect both the clips that is present on that particular track. The clip A and the clip B will be affected by the fader movement, whereas if I tend to do it with the clip gain automation, only the selected clip will have volume increments and decrements. So this is not to be confused with automation. So let's get into automation. Automations can be inputted by you in two different ways. One is by your pencil tool and drawing the automation, which normally we call draw automations, and then using your mouse or the faders that is available on your MIDI control or the encoders that is available on the MIDI control, you actually make movements to input your automation. So today we are going to see both the things. By pressing A, I get into a newer screen that's basically my automation screen. I have different types of automations here: the read automation, touch automation, latch automation, write, and trim and relative. So these are the automation modes available to me, and the parameters that are to be automated are seen here. I have volume, pan alone included now. As I click open any of the plugin in the particular track, so let me put an EQ. So this track is now with the EQ plugin. So as I go to the parameters, I could also see channel EQ added into my automation parameter, and all the available parameters inside the equalizer is also listed. So any of these selected parameters can be tweaked according to your will. So let's make it simple and just work on the fade automation. Before that, let me take the pencil tool to just click nodes like this, and I'm going to just create automations. So there is a dip, there is a smooth dip which is like an inverse triangle, and it is going to go up. So by drawing automations, you actually load the computer very less because number of nodes that are formed are fewer, and you get a smooth diagram as well. So let me just play back. The volume level gradually decreases, and from this point onwards the volume level gradually going to increase. So this is your draw automation. You could also bend this lines by using Control and Shift. So as I hold Control and Shift, you could see a curve tool appears, and then I will be able to curve my line as per my choice. Or by recalling this automation curve tool lets you to do the same thing which we did earlier. So I would prefer you to use Control and Shift, which makes the pointer tool into my curve tool. So now I'm on my pointer tool. So I could also select all these automations and say clear automation. So this is how we draw automation. Read automation. As the name says, if any existing automations are present, it reads it for you. It will not allow you to input any newer automations into it. So let's go to the next one, the touch automation. So touch automations, let me play the track and move the fader. The automation begins. I'm just moving down the fader further. Now I'm going to release the click of my mouse, see what happens. On the release of my mouse, the automation goes to its initial position, the unity position. So this means the automation begins as I click the mouse on a particular fader or a pan knob. The automation begins. The moment I release the fader, I release the click of the mouse, the automation goes to the initial position where the fader or the pan knob was there. So this is your touch automation. So it lets you to create newer automations within the automations easier. For instance, I want to add a dip in this particular region. So let me play back. So you can see the automation, the fader moves. Now I'm going to quickly grab the fader and just do this. So I increased and decreased and then released the mouse so that the newer automation is added along with the existing automation. The next one is your latch automation. So the latch automation is going to log the automation. It means the automation stay logged. It is not going to switch off with the release of your mouse. So let me just delete all these automations. Playback. Decrease the fader. And I have released the click of the mouse. The automation still stays. The automation will end only by end the playback. So as I end the playback, the automation goes to the initial fader position. Till then, the automation stayed logged. So this is basically your latch automation. The next one is your write automation, which normally people call a destructive automation. To understand write automation better, I would also want to introduce a pan automation along with the existing volume automation. Let me move my pan knob when there is a volume automation. So I'm going to add a pan automation. So let's see what happens. I have an automation which is for volume, and then the green one is for my pan automation. I can change here to display either the volume automation, which is yellow in color, or display the pan automation, which is green in color. By switching it to the write automation, there you have a warning message which says it's going to erase all the automations that is included in the track. Let me go back to the beginning of the clip and then put my fader to the desired position and the pan knob to the desired position even before you are starting the automation. Remember, I put back the fader, pan knob or any other parameters of the plugin to the desired position even before I begin automation, and simply hit playback. Automation starts. You could see the volume automation as well as the pan automation are getting cleared simultaneously. As I end the playback, the automation is also going to stop. So if I have 10 to 15 automations in the same track and I want to clear all of them, or I want to put all of them into a desired position, I choose the desired position even before switching on my automation and then convert that into the write automation mode and just playback. The automation begins on the playback and the automation ends on stop of the playback. Alright, let's look into what is the trim automation and the relative trim automation. Let me introduce a newer automation to understand this better. So let's be in a touch mode and do an automation. Then I'm going to have a dip. So I have an existing automation. Now when you play back the automation, look at this fader. The fader constantly moves as per the notes created. The fader keeps oscillating I might have to go and grab the fader which constantly moves and then enter in your fewer automations. Now I'm going to change this into the trim mode. Now you could see there's an yellow indication which is there on the fader, and the fader is not going to move as per the previous automation. So the fader is going to stay at an intact position, which allows you to easily grab through your mouse and introduce newer automation. So I'm going to do an automation at this place. I want to increase the dip, the curve, little more further down. So I'm going to trim down it. So that's what is called as your trim automation. Yes, here I'm going to just trim it a bit. So now you can see few decibels are lowered. So I'll do it again. The fader is not moving. I can quickly grab wherever I want to it and then increase it like this. So it means the existing automations is trimmed a bit and the fader doesn't move. Let me put this to the relative automation and repeat the same thing. See what happens. At this particular dip, I'm going to again further dip it down and then increase it. Now you see, as we saw earlier, when we did a pan automation and a volume automation, we had parameters to select here. So we chose pan and volume. Now I have an additional volume parameter added. I have volume, which is the main volume, and then the additional volume that we did. So as I click here, I can see the main automation, volume automation we did, and then the relative automation which we did here. So it's like two different tracks. So I could fine tune the automation. Probably I'll do it with a pencil tool. So I'll be just fine tuning it. So this is my relative automation track, and as well as I can go to the main volume automation track and then fine tune it. So this way I have more flexibility to work on volume levels. So that's it for automation.